Uh, Good evening. Hello, everyone. Uh, it's a bit of a surprise stream. I'm a little nervous about it. Nothing really pre-planned or anything. But I wanted to talk tonight to advertise a book that I'm pretty excited for. A friend of mine in a group chat has been writing this book for some time, and she finally got the. Before she was just selling it digitally, but she finally got the paperback editions available, and I managed to snag and buy a copy. So here it is. I'm gonna try to get it just right in the camera angle. This is Singularity by A.J. Bashful, and she's been working on this novel for some time. It's the first volume in a sci-fi series she's been working on for a while now. Uh, Pretty much as the title says, called Singularity, and I left a little link in the description for anybody who wants to check this novel out. But when second I first started reading this, I'm like, okay, well, we'll see how this one goes. 'Cause even if she's a friend, I gotta be fair with my critiques and thoughts and everything about it. Uh, and in this one in particular, I find myself really enjoying it, and the reason why I really enjoyed it, and mind you, I read the early draft. She let me have access. I was kind of like a test reader, but in the early draft, I really enjoyed it because her writing was quite straightforward, very similar in a lot of sense uh, to a comic book, where it was just kind of like straightforward. Now, it is still a novel, so she with this version she might have gone a little more detail, but excuse me, the way the book goes, and the reason why it's called Volume One is because the main characters, Genesis and Tyruk, uh, they basically go from case to case. They're like basically like space secret agents slash detectives. Well, I wouldn't say secret agents, but they're agents. I'll go to the book description. It gives it the best. So I'll bring it up here. The year is 2186. Mankind has discovered faster than light space travel. They have joined the greater Milky Way community that has been in existence for thousands of years. Genesis Stone, that's the main protagonist of the book, is a young woman who works as a security agent with the Galactic Investigation Bureau. Now, in the book, they don't really call it Galactic Investigation Bureau most of the time. They just call it GIB for a majority of the book because shorter, kind of like three letter alphabet agency. An ancient organization that prides itself on preserving peace in the galaxy. She encounters dangerous aliens, shadow organizations, and a variety of challenges that test her resolve. However, her assignments lead her down a path of discovery that uncovers secrets of a long forgotten past that may have heavy repercussions on the future of the Milky Way. And I'm not going to spoil too much of the book, but basically, I really enjoyed this because it very much had that kind of like comic book feel where you had adventure after adventure going throughout the novels. And normally, uh, when an author did this, and I saw this with the Scholastic Jude Watson Star Wars books, um, they would do it, one adventure at a time per novel, but it was all interconnected. This one is she manages to write. It's like short stories, but they all connect in one. Uh, I guess you would say bridge together novel. And oh, we have our first guest coming to her, and it's Net. All right, let me just add him to the stage.
Hello.
And hello, Net.
Told you I'd stop
Welcome
by.
back to the channel. Huh? Yeah, no,
Hey.
I'm giving the book its due praise before I
Oh
start
yeah,
reading because
I've actually been listening.
yeah, and it's like again, I've only read the first draft pretty much most of the way through. I think I still need to read the epilogue of the first draft, but for the most part, this book is fantastic, and I can't wait to read the full product, which I'm gonna read one, maybe two chapters, maybe three, depending, to see if I can
Oh
get
yeah.
people's interest a bit more. And I've left a link for anybody who wants to check it out. $15 on Amazon, maybe $2 tax, depending on where you live in the country. Or if you're out of the country, the tax might be a little bigger. It depends. But I would highly recommend giving this. I've already recommended this to a book friend of mine, and a couple of our other friends within our group chat are ordered their physical copies. Like, the whole reason I didn't order my digital copy is because I was waiting for a physical copy, and
Oh
finally I
yeah.
got it. So
I,
I'm
and I'm going to be getting a physical copy eventually. I got the digital copy because I was helping, her actually make sure that the ebook copy was actually going out to everybody the way that she wanted to look. So I
yeah,
was
yeah.
so I was actually getting it from from the perspective of the customer, so I could tell her that it was actually looking right.
Okay, okay. I'm curious, because
So
again,
yeah,
I didn't buy the ebook. Does the ebook have a different cover? Because I know she worked really hard on this cover before it got printed. For anybody who wants
I
to
don't
see
know
if I
if
can.
I'm hoping that she has updated it to have that cover. No,
Well, I
I'm
was
not sure.
wondering because with digital, she should keep
Yeah,
variant
she should.
covers. Yeah.
Yeah, she should be able to update it to that.
Well, the fun, I kind of don't want her to update to it, and the reason why I don't is because like each cover is unique.
Oh, that's a
Like,
point. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe and that's the only reason I would say don't change the digital cover, because I like this cover. This is a very good cover. Like, I reckon when I had a good look at it when she shared the art of it, I recognized immediately what scene it was in the book, because I'm like, oh, this is that one planet that she went to with Tyrook, and this is an empire that they can't normally get into, but they have special permissions. I'm just talking about a plot point from the book. I haven't said the species, the detail, or
Yep.
what exactly what it is. That's something you're going to have to get into the book to
Oh,
find out what
definitely.
it is.
Yep.
And uh, like, there's a few minor characters whose names I cannot remember, but I can at least give you the standouts. There's obviously the main character Genesis Stone. There's Tyrook Everest. Uh, I forgot the name of the higher ranking GIB guys. I'll have to look into them again. But then there's that random lady that comes later, Feyera. She was interesting. And of course, my favorite, and I really hope
Oh,
she
definitely.
gets someone to write the spin-offs for, William Kidder. I absolutely love Kidder. He's a fantastic side character, but he's amazing. Uh, you know me, I got a soft spot for the
Yeah,
criminal
you
elements.
are kind of. Oh
Go
yeah.
ahead. But yeah, like, that's the
Oh
so
no. No. I was
Kidder
laughing.
really,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah, so
No.
yeah,
Oh
he
no.
really
No.
grew on
I
me
was
as a
just laughing.
character.
E- Every time every time that character comes up,
Well, it's got my interest because,
you're always
like,
like, "Ooh,
well,
nice."
it's again, he's
I,
like,
I want to know more.
he's a little sleazy, but he's strangely reliable. She writes a really good character, and of course, Captain Marshall too. He was an interesting character. Uh, with that whole, I forgot the name of the military group. I'll have to again reread the novel. Just get get a quick look at everything. But yeah,
All
that's
right.
basically what I wanted to advertise this book, because you guys, she's an up and coming sci-fi author. Uh, she's not just working on science fiction, though. I know she's working on some other stuff, which I cannot disclose right now because she's still working on it. But anybody who checks out her Twitter/X page will probably find author name AJ Bashful, but on Twitter she's referred to as Miss Story Dragon. So give her follows, and let's see, we got another. Oh, it's CT. He has not read the book, so I can't add him yet. Uh, no offense, CT. I can't. Yeah, I know you're planning on ordering the book soon, but I can't add you because oh, what's he saying in French? Okay, then
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. But I've at
Oh,
least
and to
it's
answer
I've
your question about to answer
mhm.
your question about the cover, the cover art in the ebook itself is what she originally had, but if you look it up on Kindle, she has the updated cover art on the actual storefront page.
Oh, that's a shame. I was hoping she would keep the. Okay, CT, but I was I was hoping that she would at least keep the original variant cover. Just
But
maybe
in
branch out with other paperback divisions.
but in the book itself, it's got her original cover there. So
Oh, really? Let me have a
and
look because I
there,
didn't.
yeah. So like I say, on the storefront, she's got the new cover, but in the ebook itself,
Oh, in
she's got the
in
old
the
cover.
ebook. Okay. Okay, so that's it. I thought you
Yeah.
got the paperback, but that's cool. Okay, so you still get the unique original art from the ebook then.
Yep.
That's cool. All right.
And also as far as giving an advertisement to this, she's also got it set up so that if you have Kindle Unlimited, it is part of your subscription to Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that, you don't even need to pay extra for it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, okay. So if you guys have Kindle
Which I didn't know
Unlimited,
until
you
about like 3 minutes. Uh, yeah,
if you guys
up
have
until like
Kindle
3 minutes ago,
Unlimited,
I
then
didn't
you
even
can you can
realize that. But
you can
as I was,
probably get a copy of the book easy. But frankly, I'm a bit old fashioned in
yep.
some regards, and for a novel I'm really passionate about, I prefer paperback. Or if
Oh,
I had the option, but I know she hasn't had a chance to do it yet. I know she wants to eventually get it into hardcover. When she gets it into hardcover, I want to get a signed one.
oh yeah.
I was actually hoping for a signed paperback,
I'm
but
most definitely going to be getting. I'm most definitely going to be getting a physical copy. It came out right in the same week that I bought myself a new Switch. So yeah.
that explains it. Well, I know Padawan has already gotten it. I know Nihilus got his copy, and I was hoping he would pop on tonight so he'd read along with us, but he might be still under the weather because past couple days he
Yeah.
has. I'm wondering if he even made it to band practice because or orchestra practice because he's been under the weather. But
Yep.
any hoot, yeah. So yeah, I wanted to advertise. Sorry, I'm still trying. I wanted to advertise this book by AJ Bashful. This like I feel like I keep blocking out some of the art. Wish there was a way I could zoom in properly. The back of the book
Actually, let's see here.
and the visualization of it is quite good, quite appealing. Well drawn cover art. Uh, I don't want to make a lewd joke, but she's thick in a couple right places, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I'm gonna get
Okay.
started
Well,
reading chapter
actually,
one. Oh, got
if
another.
you what if I put in the private chat a link, it's got a link to the actual JPEG of the cover. So if you'd want to share that, then people could
Let's see
could,
if
could
it'll
see
even
it.
let me. I'm clicking on it right now. I'm not even. Oh, okay. Well, if not, I can put the yeah. I don't think I don't know how to share that, but if I had the option, I would. Uh, again, I'm on mobile. I'm not on. Hold on, I have to. I
Ah,
hear you with Matthew yelling
actually,
about.
in
Anyway,
that case,
oh,
would you be able to share my screen?
I think you'd have to. I'm not
Well,
sure how
yes,
to.
I've never
Hang
actually
on,
done
hang
it
on.
like that, but
Solo layout, edit mic settings. Sorry,
if you look
technical difficulties.
if you look down next to my name, you might see a thing that I just shared because it's showing it on my screen.
Yeah, well, when I click you, it gives me options. It says remove from stage, solo layout, mute, or edit mic settings.
Yeah, that wouldn't be it. Is there a separate thing because it's showing what it put in set to share the screen
Banners,
next to my
media
avatar?
assets, locals,
Yeah, that would
StreamYard
be it.
overlay. Huh?
Oh, I don't know. Sorry.
Add video clip, styling. So yeah, I can adjust picture. Yeah, I don't. Again, I haven't done enough of these like frequently enough to know how to do
Yeah.
every single little thing.
No, I
And it
get
could
that.
be that because I'm on mobile,
You'd
it's
probably
not
be able to
really.
do it, but it's not worth all the dinking around we'd have to do to get to figure it out. So don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
For those just joining us, because we just got some people popping in, I'm advertising a book by a friend. I'll be able to share the. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Netcat's sharing it in comments. Perfect. That is
Yep.
much better.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just hoping to
So
put it on the screen, but there's
yeah, no,
the
it's
image for anyone who wants to follow the link.
remember I'm on a crappy mobile phone. I'm not on my PC. So
Oh no, no,
uh,
I get that. That's why I just put it there.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. But yeah, anybody curious about this book? It's a sci-fi kind of detective. Would noir count as this? I'm not sure if noir
It
counts,
might.
but it might. Anyway, it's like a future sci-fi detective, like government agent type thing, uh, where they go around solving crimes and mysteries on a galactic scale. And again, the what I love about this is that it's written like a comic book. Heading to bed, but want to say hi. Oh, cool, man. Consider buying the book, Alex, or watch the stream and see if you can consider buying the book after. But anyway, um, what I love about this book is that it works like a comic book or a short story collection where like events are intimately connected, like it's case after case after case. So
Yep.
they're all intimately connected, same main characters each one, and yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to do is give this book a nice, good, quick advertising before I started the reading process. So I didn't know if we wanted to do this chapter by chapter or character by character. If you wanted to join along, net.
I mean, honestly, it's completely up to you. I've already done full readings of it myself, but I'm like I said
That's
before, I'm
true.
happy to give a hand.
That's true. And I'm hoping to have Joy on herself so she can tell us what she's working on next and how long we can wait till the next volume. But
Oh,
I'll go ahead and get started
and and and,
forward.
ju- and just the the random background that she gives for the books is great too. Because she
Oh,
popped
yeah.
on once when I was doing one of the readings, and she just went into full on deep dive. I got her in just the right mood, and she just
Nice.
completely was like, "Okay, let me tell you about all this."
Yeah, yeah. All right. Forward. For those who keep their eyes on the stars and heavens above, continue to wonder. I love that. It's a very
Oh yeah.
simple, straightforward forward. Table of
Hmm.
content. I noticed that, and I noticed this even before. Chapter 13 goes on for two parts, which is cool.
Yep.
So in reality,
And
there's like 21 chapters, not just 20.
as a little bit of a tidbit for anybody who's curious, the table of contents is actually generated by me.
Oh yeah, yeah. Net was the one that helped put most of this novel together. So here's the behind the scenes editor right there.
Yeah, obviously she's the one that wrote it, but I was the tech person behind it.
Oh yeah, and they even made a simplified version for Padawan that was even easier to read and looked longer. So it was I believe, what did you call it, the extended edition?
Oh god, yeah, that was just me being a dick. I still
Alrighty,
have that. I still have
let's.
that saved someplace.
Yeah, yeah. I think I think I have a copy of it on my email. So chapter one. One thing leads to another. Genesis, we have to take this job. I know, Tyrook. Maybe I can give them character accents. I might give Genesis a country accent. Sorry, Joy.
Hey, honestly, I read each one of them differently myself. Whatever
Yes,
feels
I'll.
natural. Hmm.
Genesis, we have to take this job. I know, Tyrook. Then why are you hesitating to push the button? He said. Because I wish we didn't have to. Remember what you told me when we first met? Sometimes we can't do what we want to do. Sometimes we do what we have to do. Yes, and right now, I don't want to remember what I told you. Just think of the credits, Jen. I know. Think of what we can do with them. I am Tyrook. Do you need me to accept it for you? She sighed. No. With one tap of her finger, the holographic yes on the screen in front of her turned green and then disappeared. The apparatus on her wrist chimed, which she glanced at briefly. Get the location. Oh, well. Oh, here we go. Okay. Got the location details. We're going to the Canis Beta cluster. Hopefully, it's a nice planet. Hamathor, Paris City. I've never been there, have you? No, but I hear it's pretty upscale. Large sweeping mansions nestled into a rocky cliff, cascading waterfalls, dense green forests, and it rains 6 months out of the year. But that is Parith Heights. Parith City is the metropolis closest to it, and I'd rather not jade our opinion on it. No, jade your opinion on it. That doesn't sound all that great to me, but it can't be worse than Anternium or Eternium. Apparently, you haven't been to Midnight Crest. If you ever end up there, it better be a quick stop. Considering your source of information on this, I don't think it's as bad as you say it is. Suit yourself, he replied, shrugging his shoulders. You live and you learn.
And I'll take over now.
Okay.
Welcome to the Talisar handoff point. Please confirm your end destination, the robotic voice hummed. Canis Beta Cluster, Habathar, Genesis replied. Destination confirmed. Your warp drive into the stream will be ready for use very shortly. Please stand by. They sat in deafening silence momentarily. Won't it be nice when we won't have to use a public warp drive? We could just jump from system to system without waiting for our turn, Turek said. Yes, and that's if we could ever afford a ship with a warp drive. He sighed. A little bit of optimism can go a long way, Jen. She said nothing in response as her attention turned towards the unending dark expanse outside of their window. So many stars, and so little time to discover them all. Interesting time to get poetic, Stone. Inspiration comes and goes, she jested. The warp core launch initiation sequence will begin shortly. Please do not attempt to commandeer the ship or relay any messages over the holonet while inside the stream. Any interference may result in galactic displacement, severe injury, and or severe damage to your vehicle and even death. Thank you for choosing the Talisar Public Warp Core. The subtle white glow of the console dimmed momentarily as their ship was pulled into alignment, with the large cylinder-shaped poles that curved wickedly through the blue-black expanse. Scores of other space shuttles of varying sizes hovered all around them. The core of the warp relay on their ship roared to life, and the sheer force caused the floor to rumble and the loose fixtures to rattle. Every time we go through one of these things, I wonder if we'll come out on the other side in one piece or several, Turek grumbled. And a little bit of optimism can go a long way, Turek. An intense blue light shot forth from the warp core, and their ship was pulled closer and closer. The sound was so sharp and piercing, it was barely audible. You got me. Genesis closed her eyes as they were pulled through. The urge to empty her stomach of its contents sat at the top of her throat, causing her to swallow hard. The rough skin of Tarek's palm enveloped her hand, and her shoulders relaxed. And over to you.
All right. Yeah, I want to make sure. This is Genesis. Okay, just making sure.
Yep.
Feels like it takes forever, doesn't it? After inhaling and exhaling deeply, her eyes opened. The stream was made entirely of brilliant, intense colors and ethereal light, complete contrast to the endless dark void of space. Iridescent strings of cloud like formations surrounding their ship, somehow appearing close enough to touch. yet far off in the distance simultaneously. She continued to gaze out the window, trying to take in as much phenomenon as possible. Once they exited the stream, the light that engulfed their spacecraft dissipated. The warmth faded and almost immediately was replaced with a cold glare of the dashboard lighting. We made it. He placed his hand on the second helm, and she turned off the autopilot feature. She nodded in silent agreement. Should be easier. Should be the easiest credits we'll earn this month. The navigation system automated, steering their ship to one of the largest land masses on the Rubicund planet. As they neared its surface, the hull of the ship creaked as it pushed through the atmosphere. Soon the bare landscape dotted with a cluster of tall buildings and an abundance of red sand becoming visible. Dusty planet, she remarked. A municipal landing zone situated their left as she directed the Tempest toward it, allowing the craft to descend gently. Flight control droid guided her. Let's see. That's a part of its charm. The planet has been turning into a giant red desert for centuries, bad for agriculture, but great for sand surfers and Arapirius. Finally, their ship landed on solid ground. She turned off the engines. Arpirius? Sand serpents, nasty things. Best if we didn't wander off onto the dunes without a sand drifter. Noted. Stay out of the sand. But we'll need goggles with the way the wind's blowing, this dust around us. She dipped her hand in the compartment between the two of them and grabbed two pairs, handing him one and putting on the other. When the rear hatch opened, a gust of hot wind whipped across her face, and the sun bore down heavily on her head and shoulders. As they made their way to the depot, a large metal gate that extended indefinitely into the desert with a small security hut separated the landing zones from the rest of the city. Their surroundings were deafeningly silent. I didn't know if you wanted me to continue or if
Oh,
you wanted to pick up from
mm,
here.
I'll pick it up.
Okay.
Seems pretty tame to me, Turok. Just you wait, my dear. A security guard approached them, his yellow-green eyes looking them up and down. He easily stood several inches taller than her alien companion, buried an assault rifle in his hands. State your name and purpose. Genesis Stone, and this is Turuk Erdest. We were assigned by the Galactic Investigative Bureau to case number 3370544. Yavik Tim, species Ernak, tried and convicted for identity fraud, embezzlement, and racketeering. He has been assigned to the re-education hub Maelstrom and needs to be transported to serve out the remainder of his sentence. Give me a moment to confirm. He examined the holopad in his hand briefly and extended to her. Place your thumb right here. She did as instructed, and he gestured for them to follow him into the small hut he came from. You got here sooner than we anticipated. He'll be ready shortly. The guard led them down a brief, dimly lit hallway to a set of double doors, which slid open and revealed the city she had seen on their descent. The tallest buildings were a few dozen stories and would have been taller if the tops of the structures hadn't been decimated and reduced to rebar jutting into the sky. Panes of glass were missing or broken on every floor, and a few armed men stood in the openings. Her eyes trailed further down the streets, which were littered with abandoned hover cars. A few of the storefronts were still open, and armed guards stood at each entrance. Children were playing with a ball in the middle of the street as their laughs echoed through the air. Modest amounts of people traversed the streets, their faces hidden from the sun and sand. A few eyed the trio suspiciously, but quickly assessed that they were from off-world and turned their eyes elsewhere. Genesis continued to examine her surroundings, her hand at her hip. Her eyes darted left and right, examining as many faces as possible. She attempted to steady her breathing as her hand moved away from her sidearm. What happened to this place? She asked quietly. Time, Taruk replied. Once desert storms became a common thing, most people went underground or left the planet. Interesting. And what you told me about Paris Heights must be a lie then. And then over to you.
Not at all. You'd be very surprised what credits can buy on a forgotten planet. Look at the horizon toward the east. As instructed, she did so, and her jaw slackened. Wow. Floating high above them, in a great distance away from plain view, was Parith Heights. How did I miss that on the way in? Simple. They have cloaking technology that reflects the surface of the planet from above. Those flight control bots that guided the Tempest to the landing zone, they're programmed to destroy anything that gets too close to Parith Heights without prior authorization. All entry is bottlenecked by several heavily guarded checkpoints on the ground. It's invite only, of course. I see why you told me that I wouldn't like it. See? I knew you better than you think. Genesis said nothing in reply as they approached the Paris City Security Building. It was mostly intact and well maintained on the outside, save for some jagged shrubs that were growing through the cracks and a few etches of graffiti on the side of the structure. Once they stepped through the sliding doors, a refreshing blast of chilly air greeted them from the air conditioning units. The inside walls were powder blue with cobalt furnishings. Apart from the large front desk, which was made of dark gray metal, two guards were posted on either side of the door. On the far right of the main hall, to the floor above them. Standing near the balcony desk, lined with the main floor, all the way to the rear entrance, several officers sat at their desks, preoccupied with one thing or another. The guard lifted the rig on his wrist to his mouth and asked, "What's the status on the Ernak? We're about to cross the plains." "We're bringing them up now. The elevator." Oh, wait, hang on, that's a lady. "We're bringing him up now. The elevators are busy. By the time you arrive, we should be at the processing checkpoint," a female voice said on the other end. "Of course," he sighed. He turned his sights back to them. "Follow me. First time on the Hamathor." They were both headed towards the double doors. "I came here quite often a few decades ago for some recon missions, but this is her first time," Tyrook replied. The door opened, and there was another corridor at the end of the hall. "I haven't seen many humans out here," their escort said. The door slid open to a dimly lit hangar with vehicles that could traverse the sand. They floated in a neat row of a dozen, secured by their individual stations. Each one had 6 seats, 2 rows of 3 each. He walked over to the first one and got into the driver's seat. Genesis sat in the front passenger seat, furthest away, Eric climbing in behind them. Small craft hummed to life with a touch of a button on the console, and with a half turn of a wheel, he steered them towards the hangar, outdoor and out onto the sand. Their surrounding became a soft blur of vehicle moved at the smooth, steady pace. Wind blew around them was cool, and Genesis rested her back fully on the cushion, removing her goggles. Despite the sad state of Paris City, Himafor was beautiful, and in its own way, the aqua blue sky and the crimson red sand danced in the sharply yet welcoming contradiction. Without a cloud in sight, three milky white moons and orbited the planet were very clear. Sorry, I had a clear view. Sorry, I read a little longer than.
It happens. Those three moons inhabited? She asked. Yes. Why? You humans have your eye on them? I wouldn't know. I'm not scouting for real estate. Good. They've been off limits for centuries, even to the Ilkata. We tried to colonize the high plains, but the native species are too hostile. So we abandoned any and all habitation endeavors. Seems like the logical thing to do. Targ chimed in. The Okada created Paris Heights? And Genesis asked. No. Paris Heights, it predates when we arrived here. No one knows who inhabited it first, only that it has been under the control of powerful families for generations. The conversation ended, and they drove in silence until they reached the gates. Genesis looked around, realizing that it was part of a large square perimeter. Here, each wall was several stories high, with guard towers in each corner. Here we are, there's announced, pulling into a stall and shutting off the engine. They all climbed out and entered the small building with writing on it in a dialect that consisted of dots and jagged lines, fixed together to form symbols. What's this place called? Genesis asked. One guard was stationed at the front desk, and several were standing around, quietly talking amongst themselves. And you go.
The pit, he replied. All the criminals are kept in cell blocks underground. Easier to spot them trying to escape. Their conversation was cut short by the door to their right, on the other side of the room sliding open. Two guards, varied species, emerged with a small, beady-eyed individual with pointy ears and too big for his round head. He had cuffs secured to his tiny wrists and a collar around his neck. Genesis looked to Tyrook for an explanation, and he chuckled in confusion on her face, shrugging his shoulders. Right on time, right on time, he said. You're going with them, little guy, the female guard teased. She pushed him forward with the butt of her rifle, and he stumbled. His beautiful, oh no, his beady dark eyes shifted left and right, quickly studying Genesis, Tyrook, human, and Barian. Common to see these two species together. Starting to see more humans in the galaxy away from Earth. Not sure it's a good thing. His speech pattern was quick and deliberate. I don't know if I can trust them with my safety. You don't have a choice, Tim. This isn't a luxury cruise. Oh, no, you don't have a choice, Tim. This isn't a luxury cruise to the desert. You're a criminal. Now get moving. The same female guard replied. Her voice was increasingly harsh in tone with each word. Genesis eyed her carefully, and they locked eyes. Her ruby red irises were eerily still and dull like those of a reptile. Genesis started to speak, yet remained silent as their escort, grabbing the Ernak by the crook of his arm, led them back to the hangar. They piled they piled into the vehicle again, but this time Genesis sat next to Tyrook in the back. Very shortly, they were back on the arid plain sands. The sky had already turned to a different shade of blue. In the brief time they were inside, and the stars had begun to dot to the wide expanse. Sweat gathered and dissipated on her forehead, and the wind picked up. See, Jen, we didn't disintegrate on the descent. The guards were cooperative, and the ride over here was smooth. Now all we need to do is take this guy from point A to point B, and we're done. 7,000 credits in the bag. I know, Tyrell. Let's just enjoy the ride. We still have to make a jump through the stream. I have to mentally prepare myself not to throw up. Carl, what mint? Yavik said. What? She said. All right, go ahead.
He, he turned around to face them. Carrot mint will help with nausea. It calms the human nervous system. Thank you, she replied. He nodded curtly and returned to facing forward. Her and Tarek exchanged a bewildered look, yet said nothing. Justice closed her eyes and leaned in her head back against the cushion behind her, drawing in a deep sigh. A loud, steady beep, 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 broke the silence, and she turned her attention to the dashboard of the hovercraft. The radar on the console had a blinking green dot that was moving slowly toward their position. Is that an Arperius moving through the sand? she asked the guard. Could be, but but they usually stay away from the sand drifters. Probably nothing we need to worry about, Neris dismissed. Maybe we should go a little faster, she suggested, sitting up straighter in her seat. She turned around and to look behind them. There was nothing. The sunlight was fading fast. We don't need to. By the time Genesis it was too late. The thermal blast hit the side of their vehicle, causing it to shake violently, and nearly threw them off course. Yavik let out a small yelp as the guards struggled to keep the wheel steady. Drek! Where did that come from? Neris barked. It doesn't matter. We're under attack. Floor it! Turek shouted. He removed his pistol from its holster and began scanning their surroundings. They quickly picked up speed, and Genesis removed her own gun, turning her head in the general direction of the shot. Out of the corner of her eye to the southwest, another bright red clip cut through the air and barely missed the rear engine. It came from our right, she exclaimed. The beeping increased in frequency. Beep, 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 beep. And soon, the engine of their assailant's vehicle grew increasingly louder as they approached. Two more hovercrafts followed not too far behind them, each with several hooded figures. Keep them off me. We still got a way to go, and this thing isn't built for combat, Neris yelled. They began firing again, but not without return fire from Turek and Genesis. And over to you.
Keep your head down, she instructed. Significant distance to keep them separated from their attackers. But they were slowly catching up. Another bullet hit the rear and burned a hole in the metal, causing it to burn bright orange before it turned gray and started to smoke. You keep driving in a straight line and we'll never make it, Tyruk said. Neris took a sharp right and threw them off their trajectory and sped up once. He came out and turned. This isn't a high performance vehicle. No use then. We'll have to fight them off, Genesis shouted. They were trailing behind, the still empty thermal cliff in their drifter. You got any heavy rifles? No! Whatever you have on you is gonna have to do. As soon as he finished his statement, a bullet whizzed past Genesis' ear and clipped his shoulder. Ah! He gasped, his shoulder. The vehicle jerked violently to the left. They all toppled to one side, causing Genesis to fall into her Ibarian companion. Our chances of survival are greatly decreasing with each passing moment, Yavik finally spoke. You must right the vehicle and detain the bandits. Neris regained control of his breathing. His breathing labored. I'm fine. We'll make it. I just need to. I just need you guys to buy us time. How? She asked. This vehicle doesn't have any heavy weapons or projectiles. You may release some of the power cells in the You may release some of the power cells from the rear engine. They are highly explosive. When enough force is applied to their shell, Yarrick informed them. He was surprisingly calm. Taruk immediately went from the metal hull of the rear of the vehicle and pried it back, exposing the wiring and fuel cells. He removed three of them, the sand drifting slowed down. Um, we'll have to be on we'll have to be on foot if we remove all of them. That's just a chance we'll have to take, Neris ground out. Drop them! With their slower pace, the bandits were quickly catching up, thus making them easier targets. Perfect, Tyler chuckled. He threw the first, and as soon as it hit the sand, red-orange flame erupted from its impact. The closest vehicle was lifted high into the air, crashing into the sand, its occupants violently thrown from their seats and onto the ground. Scratch one, Genesis whooped. The other two slowed down, creating a distance between them, and then started to aim their fire at Taruk. All right, man, back to you.
He ducked down quickly as the clips whizzed by. Trek! They're on to us! Genesis! Here! He tossed one of the cells to her, and she nearly dropped it. She was surprised at its warmth, but could feel the raw energy rumbling violently inside of it through her palms. Be careful! On my cue, we throw them forward. Neris, hit the brakes on my count. 3, 2, 1, now! The engines fell silent. Boom, and they came to a near halt as the remaining two cars sailed by them in the night. Now, Genesis! In near perfect harmony, they threw their power cells, and one of the drifters exploded with the bandits inside. The other was only knocked onto its side, the engine catching flames. The occupants vacated immediately, and within a few seconds, their vehicle also blew up. The amber colored flames quickly dissipating. The force of the blast sent them hurtling through the air, landing hard in the sand. Floor it! Genesis commanded. Nurse stepped on the accelerator pedal, and the hovercraft had a brief burst of energy and then struggled to move forward. The engine sputtered and refused to turn over, and the light emanating from the console faded away. No, no, no! Nurse groaned, hitting the steering wheel. We're about 20 miles out, and we can't salvage anything from the wreckage to repair our sand drifter. Not to forget the four bandits that may be conscious now and headed our way, Yavik chimed in. I suggest we use this vehicle as cover and try to detain them before we are killed. I don't get it. If bandits never come to this stretch of the desert, they know it's Paris City Patrol's jurisdiction, Neris replied. He removed the safety from his assault rifle and checked the thermal clip. They all climbed out and onto the shifting landscape. If we make too many impacts in the sand, the Imperials will come and swarm the place. They're more active at night. Genesis coiled her body, erratically searching the sand all around her. Are they restrictors or venomous? She asked, checking her inventory. Her pistol still had a nearly full clip, and there was an extra in her side bag. Both, Nurse informed her. Her brows furrowed. That's impossible, she said. Not on Hamathar, Turek added. We may want to disengage the levitation core so they can't shoot our feet from underneath us and leave us for the serpents. Over to you.
The drifter fell to the ground with a deafening thud. They all looked at the Ernak, who had the levitation core in his small hand. Done, he told them. He was quick to duck behind the vehicle. The three of them followed suit. Tarek peeled his head out from the left side, Naris from the right, and Genesis from the center, the muscles in her thighs wobbling as she got into the half couch stance, scanning and surrounding in front of them. Where are they now? She asked. Without the headline from the sand drifter, it's pitch black until they decide to start shooting again. What we need to worry about are the Arperius. They can sneak up on you without making a single sound. Only warning you get is a face full of venom or a broken leg before they drag you under, Naris whispered. So if we survive this gunfight, how are we going to cross the rest of the way? Why haven't we called for backup yet? Tarek asked. We'll have to move slowly and quietly. I haven't used my transmitter yet because the Arpurius are especially sensitive to radio waves. They'll lock in on our location before we step 5 feet from this drifter, Marius replied. The comms are safer to use during the day, and they're sleeping and we're moving across the desert. Fair enough, Genesis said. Why haven't we spotted them yet? We can't sit here. We can't sit here all night. We have to keep moving. Yava guttered. I agree with the little guy. We're exposed by three sides, and we need to get behind the security building fast. Tarek added. If you're not coming with us, then point us in the right direction at least. We're all going, Genesis indicated. That's the best way for us to survive this night. We need to move now. She went for Yavik, pulling on a second pair of cuffs, and from the side bag, latching them to her wrists, and then secured to her belt. Naris stood to full height, wincing as he did so. We need to head northeast. No unnecessary talking if we do. If you do, whisper very, very quietly. He motioned for them to follow. Genesis noted right away she had slung his rifle from his right arm. while the left hung weakly at his side. You want to pop in from here?
Sure. Here, you should let me put some Metasalve and a bandage on that, she said softly. They're walking side by side now. I'll be fine as long as we keep moving. Should get there by sunrise, he dismissed. We can't afford to have our guide pass out in the desert. Let me help, she insisted. Thermal clips cauterized the wound. It just hurts like Ajathraka right now. She didn't press the issue and simply kept walking, her eyes to the night sky. The three moons cast a muted white light on the dunes in the distance. The silence was deafening, apart from their feet causing subtle shifting in the fine grain of the sand. I am not used to interacting with humans, Nair said, breaking her concentration. I've only seen your kind on the Galactic News Network. And what was your impression? She asked. Scheming, overambitious, arrogant, he replied. She swallowed hard, scratching her head. Well, that's not what I was expecting. But after being around you, I'm not sure. Genesis stared briefly at the side of his scaly face. His expression remained indiscernible in the gloomy light. Silence overtook them once again, and the four of them continued to walk on in the darkness. By the time the sun began to rise, Genesis was dragging her legs through the sand. Yavik had needed to stop a few times, and as badly as she wanted to sit, she refused to give in. The sand beneath her feet constantly shifted against the direction of the wind. Every once in a while, an object, solid and fast moving, pressed against the side of her boots. Finally, on the horizon, the geometric shapes of buildings started to take shape in the far distance. We're close, she said, relieved. Finally, Truck sighed, his voice cracking at the end. I may have to sit down for a few weeks after this. Just a few more miles and we're out of this barren dump, Genesis added. We'll make it before the sun hits its zenith. You don't want to be in 150-degree weather without aether protection or water. You'll pass out in the sand in an hour without either, and then the little scavengers will come and feast on you until there's nothing left, Neris said. How, how's that arm? She asked, eyeing his dangling limb. The pain has calmed down, but this gun is getting heavy. Tarak walked in between them. I'll carry it for you. Legally, I'm not allowed to be without my firearm at any time, but I'll make an exception. He handed the rifle over. Thanks, Iberian. No problem. It's the least I can do considering you took a bullet, kept driving with a burning hole in your arm, and managed to keep us alive for the past couple of hours walking through a serpent-ridden desert. And over to you.
All right. Don't thank me yet. We haven't made it to the base. Genesis would have kept walking if Nera's uninjured arm hadn't stopped her dead in her tracks. Confused, she looked up at his yellow-green eyes. His pupils had narrowed to slits, his tongue flicking several times, which caused Yavik to start making small chirps like a bird. She was quick to cover her mouth in silence. What's going on? She whispered to her partner. Yeah, one sec. She looked ahead of them. Around 20 or 30 minutes of walking, they'd be at the base. Shh, Nearest urged them. We're being hunted. Move very slowly. Running softly, she internally took lighter, smaller steps in the sand, her eyes carefully scanning their grounds. The wind was constantly shifting. The sand, soon as it settled, red dunes all around them swayed in a wave-like motion. A light hiss came from their right. By the time she turned her head in the direction of the noise, it had stopped. Just as a precaution, Jen, you may want to disconnect our little felon from your belt. Tarek uttered softly into her ear. She nodded curtly, disengaging the glowing rope around her belt loop. As they continued quietly as they could, the hissing returned. This time is much closer, more intense. That doesn't sound good, she told Maris. Every muscle in her body coiled like a tightly wound spring, begging for release. The ground was shaking from the Arepius, making its presence known to them. On my count, we run. It knows exactly where we are, he informed them. Do not look back. Do not try to fight it. Finally, Genesis saw a fiery red, scaly skin. Yellow dorsal spikes appeared briefly above the sand. Its milky white eye peered at her briefly before its brill hid it from the view. It's a big one, she said, her voice shaking. We have a better chance the bigger they are, the slower they move through the sand. We may be able to throw it off if we separate until we make it to the base. It can't go after all of us, he chimed in. Are you all ready? Naris asked. They exchanged glances. And now, Genesis immediately broke into a sprint. Her eyes focused on the metal structure ahead of them in the distance. The large serpent broke the surface in front of them after they had covered the short distance, rearing back its spade shaped head. They all stood frozen in place as it eyed the four of them. She was quick to pull out her pistol and fire at it. The red hot bullet hit its soft underbelly, and the Arperius spit out yellow green substance from its hollow fangs. She jumped out of the way, watching the liquid ooze and sizzle before it disappeared into the sand. Keep moving, Genesis, Terra bellowed. They split into twos, went around the creature, Tyruk with her and Yavik with Neris. The impact of it diving into the sand to continue its pursuit caused the ground to shake briefly, and she kept her eyes trained forward. You didn't say anything about acid venom, she shouted. I didn't think it mattered, Tyrek replied. The massive creature was hot on their tail, and Genesis was loudly gasping for air. She traveled the sand. The shadow passed quickly overhead. She looked up. The engine plane echoed through the air. As it slowed down, made a hard U-turn back towards them. The lasers of the ship fired its fired at the Arperius. Fired at the Arperius, giving them chase, and tremors ceased and grew weaker as they continued running. The beast soon retreated from the blast. Paris City came just in time, Nair said. The relief and exhaustion in his voice was apparent. He waved to the pilot, and the ship descended slowly, hovering just a few feet above the sand. All right, go ahead, Net.
The side door slid open, and a uniformed officer extended his hand. Yavik was quick to be first, with Nares close behind him. They pulled the Erdak on board, and then time slowed to a crawl with what transpired after. Genesis saw the mouth of the rifle take aim at Nares' chest. A single blast cut straight through his armor, shattering his chest plate. His blue blood splattered across the red sand behind him before he fell back to the ground. Eyes wide with confusion and anger, he lay there, clutching his chest as they watched the assailant reveal himself to be a she. Genesis felt her blood turn to ice when she locked gazes with those familiar, haunting red eyes. Thanks for bringing him right to us, she taunted with a bow. A wicked smile that didn't reach her eyes graced her pale face. We'll be going now. Genesis looked at their captive, whose countenance revealed no malice or foreknowledge of this plan. Fascinating, was all Yavik said before the door slid shut, and the ship quickly gained altitude until it was just a small black dot in the sky. She stood there, looking up at where they had once been, until Taruk broke the silence. Genesis, we need to get Neris back to the base as soon as possible. He's dying. Shaking her head, she turned her attention to the Ilkana. His breathing was labored as she tried to sit up on his own. Let us help you, she insisted, grabbing some Invisigauze from her pouch. The wound was a gaping black hole in the left side of his chest. The laser partially cauterized the wound. This pad should help stop some of the bleeding. Nares coughed, blood erupting from his mouth. She and Turuk looked at one another, and he shook his head. His eyes began to close, and Genesis gently shook him. You have to stay awake until we get you to the infirmary. They can save you. Just hold on, she assured him. Face it, I'm long shot. We're another 20 minutes out. I don't have that much time, he gasped. Do you have any family? She asked. Wife? Kids? He shook his head weakly. Never met the right girl. Or I have a sister, Lorraine Fezzik. L- Lorraine will be heartbroken if you give up now, Justice replied, putting pressure on the wound. His eyes rolled back. His curdled breasts were thick with blood. Haven't heard from her in months. Ugly argument. Maybe this is what I deserve. His lids closed, and his breaths suddenly grew shallow. All the blood drained from her face as she started pressing rhythmically on his chest. Then you need to survive so you can fix things. Truck looked on for a moment before he carefully neared her. Genesis. He just needs some help to keep going, she huffed, still beating down on his chest. Genesis. She said nothing in response, sweat trickling down her forehead and into her brows. Turuk covered her hands with his, giving them a slight squeeze. Genesis. He's gone. His features lie perfectly still, as if he were in a deep sleep. When that realization finally hit her, she turned away, getting to her feet. Drawing in a heavy sigh, she buried her face deep in her hands. If we hadn't taken the job, he'd still be alive. A profound silence grew between them. The gentle gusts of the early morning swayed around them, almost melancholy in sound. We couldn't have possibly known that this would happen. There are risks with every assignment. Her eyes turned to the sky. A flock of creatures passed overhead and towards the horizon. She watched as they slowly disappeared over the red dunes and towards an unknown destination. One thing leads to another. And there you have chapter one of honestly an exceptionally good book that and I've read hundreds to thousands of books, and this book it is one of the better books that I've read.
That's a good thing.
Yes, very much.
And
I
again,
will.
the core thing I love about it is that it's very similar. Again, you know how I feel about comic books. It's very similar to a comic book in that it changes cases quite a bit.
Yep.
Hmm?
Like like
Yeah.
like it says, one thing leads to another. It's kind of like an anthology, but eventually the cases start getting longer. But it does go from case to case, like you say. But there is a thread between all of them, that and not just them. So there is very good continuity to it all as well.
Oh yeah. No, there's little attention to detail here and there, and I know it's probably going to get more detailed as the chapters go on because I know Joy added a few differences to the official novel as compared to the original draft. So
Yep.
let's see if any of them appear here. I'm going to start chapter two.
Okay. I may bow out because my voice isn't really doing the best at the moment.
I hear you.
Ugh.
It's nice that you read along, though. Thanks for
Oh
popping
yeah.
on, Net.
Yeah.
And again, let me turn off my camera. Please go to Amazon. Link in the description, and Net has left a link in the comments as to what the cover fully looks like for any of those who are interested. Self-drawn, self-written by the author herself, and yeah, really hope you guys give it a shot. Check it out.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
And
it's
like and like Natsu was saying before, the two of us were beta readers. So yeah.
yeah. For me, this is just I guess you could say a re-education of what I remember. So
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead
Sure.
and get started on chapter two, and if you want to bow out, Net, come back
Yep.
anytime.
I will probably just I'll probably just listen along.
All right, man.
Okay. Bye.
All right, later, Net. Okay, chapter two, the Bureau. Genesis, we can't stay here much longer. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with the body? Tarek asked. She stood there in silence for a moment. The heat from the sun was starting to intensify her raven colored tresses. Oops, my battery is low. Give me 1 second. Yeah, sorry, this is going along longer than I intended, but I think I'll after I finish chapter two, we'll call it. Give the book one more little advertisement before we end after I finish chapter two. Yes, hello, Net. You are in the chat. Naris, we should take Naris back to the security headquarters so he can be cleaned and given a proper burial. I wouldn't feel right leaving him out here. You're right, but I'm certain he's heavier than anything you have ever attempted to lift. The young woman examined their surroundings for anything that could help them carry the fallen guard and found nothing but sand. We'll drag him here through the desert. The sun is almost up, so the Arperias aren't really going to bother us, she replied. They each grabbed one of his legs and began walking towards the hangar in the distance. Good thing we don't have far to go. I can only imagine the smell of rotting flesh in this climate. Sorry, this is him. Only the smell of rotting flesh in this climate, her partner remarked. Genesis stopped. He turned his head, and she glared into his amber-colored eyes. Too soon, he asked, finally turned away. I'm just trying to lighten the mood, Jen. When we get Nearest back to his unit, we have to tie up loose ends, which won't be pretty. Letting out a heavy breath, she rolled her eyes. I know, Tyru. I just rather not find myself in a good mood after a crappy night we just had, only for it to be ruined by a review committee. Fair enough. Just thought I'd try to cheer you up since, a person did die right before your eyes. I'm fine, Tyru. I've seen a dead body before. Judging by reaction, I'd have thought otherwise. I said I'm fine, she snapped. Okay, okay, he replied in a calm tone. I'll leave you alone. As soon as as soon as the hangar, no, they soon reached the hangar, and there were three guards standing by the door. They had smiles on their faces, and laughter filled the air until they saw Genesis and Tyru dragging their telecom. Fazik, the bargaining guard said quietly in disbelief. He was quick to assist them in carrying the body. The others followed suit, leading them down a different corridor. The infirmary was just ahead of them. Through a set of double doors, they slid open, and the group put Neris on the front open bed. His body hit the thin mattress with a loud thud. I'll hail the chief. You'll want to know. He tapped the Ocucom implant in his ear. Chief, we have a casualty. Neris Fazik. Bullet wound to the chest. He looked both Genesis and Tyrick, his expression blank as if he was waiting for his superior to finish speaking on the other end. No, they're still alive. Where's the prisoner? He asked them. Genesis started to speak, and Tyrick cut her off. Escaped. His sharp gray eyes gave away the contempt he was feeling at that moment. The Ernak is in the wind, probably in another system by now, sir. There was another pause. I'll get started on the incident report. Send a message to the next of kin. See you soon. Juvo Fest out. Any chance their chief won't take it? Any chance their chief won't want to take us out back and shoot us? Tyreek asks. Depends on his mood. Just stay here until he arrives. His voice was very cold, businesslike, and distant. Genesis looked around the sterile white room, her hands in her pockets. The two other guards were watching very closely, their fingers on the trigger of their assault rifles. She was quick to look down and busy herself with studying the geometric pattern of the medium gray tiles beneath their feet. Door slid open a few minutes later. She lifted her head. The chief, soon at the same height as Tyruk, on stifled legs, much like the Iberian, but everything else was completely different. He had somewhat large triangle shaped ears, deep green feline eyes, and small symmetrical spikes on the crown of his head. His rust colored skin had dark spots scattered all over its surface. She noticed an odd shaped tattoo on his neck. Unlike the guard's black armor and green jumpsuit, his uniform was a solid blue and silver armor. A massive pistol rested in its holster on his hip. Three guards stood straight as arrows as they saluted. Sir, they said in unison. At ease, his gruff voice bounced off the wall. Juvohest, make sure the coroner arrives as soon as possible. Take our fallen brother away. Wyvern, Pascal, clear out his desk, download all his data from his personal terminal, and gather his belongings. His family will want them. The trio saluted again. Sir, yes, sir. They were on their way without another word. However, Genesis caught the gaze of the one Juvothest. He trailed behind his comrades, intentionally walking a slower pace as his eyes remained fixed on her. The dark look in his face sent chills down her spine as the door closed behind him. Now alone, aside from the two nurses on duty across the room, the chief turned his face and gazed at them, his eyes lingering on Tyrone with an indiscernible expression on his face before he turned away. We haven't had a casualty in 2 years. Neither of them said anything. Between the deafening silence and the sterile medicinal stench in the air, Genesis' palms started to sweat. Tell me what happened, Eric started. It was a smooth sailing until I wasn't speaking to you, Ibarian, he interjected, his tone cut like a knife. The case was assigned to Miss Genesis Stone. She can speak for herself. She licked she licked her lips. I had Yavik in custody. We were on our way back, with no problem until some bandits attacked us. We were on foot, and Paris City Patrol dropship came. They took Yavik and shot Neris in the chest. Chief turns his sights to Neris's body, silently examining the bullet wound. Are you certain it was a Paris City dropship? He asked. Genesis hesitated to answer. Yes. His emerald gaze locked with her golden brown eyes. You're certain you saw Paris City security scrawled on the dropship? No, I was focused on the person who shot Neris. And? She was wearing a Paris City Guard uniform detail. I know is a fact. Finally, he broke the stare and focused the space between her and Tyler. His expression was blank. This is a serious claim, but I won't dismiss it entirely. Shouldn't take long to find out who murdered Fazek. We don't have too many female agents. Only three of them were recently recruited. She's an Ilkana, red eyes, white skin, Genesis informed him. She was the one who brought Yavik Tim up from the pit. He drew a long breath and sighed. Natara Weirze. This is this was planned. Her background sorry, her background check came back clean. Almost too clean. When your assignment is too dead planet like this, it's easy to get complacent. May I speak now? Tyrick asked. His voice was laced with sarcasm, which earned him a look from Genesis. He seemed totally unaffected as the tense scowl from earlier returned to his face. Yes, Ibarian. She immediately picked up the muscle in Tyrook's jaw, growing tense. His large fists were clenched so tightly she could see the white in his knuckles through his gray-blue skin. They could be anywhere in the galaxy by now, but we could track their fuel emissions and hunt them down. Yes, you could. But what good would that do? We know nothing about what would be awaiting the team that I send out there. Being outmanned and outgunned is a strong possibility. Then I'd be sending out more condolences to families of agents who went along with a slipknot impulse plan concocted by a hot-headed bureau investigator. The mood in the infirmary was shifted with terrifying speed as Tyrook took a heavy step forward. That's not what I meant, he barked. His tone drew the attention of the nurses, and looked both at each other and at the emergency exit to their left. She was quick to stand in front of her partner, placing her hand firmly on the armor protecting his chest, before turning around to face the chief. The warm air from his nostrils blew a small gust across the crown of her head. Going back and forth won't get us anywhere. Taruk and I can follow them quietly, then regroup once we have more information on the Terra and her crew. Chief stepped closer to her, just a few feet away. This assignment requires that you and your partner transport the criminal from Hamathor to Maelstrom. You failed. I've lost one seasoned decorated officer, loved by his comrades, myself included. I have several turncoats and a valuable hollow criminal in the wind. This case is no longer a concern. But this case is now above your level of competency, human. Now please leave. He leaned in close enough for her to count the flecks of brown in his irises. I have a lot of work on my hands. He straightened his tall, lean frame, quietly exiting the room, pushing the door away, or pausing in the doorway. I cannot guarantee you that if you ever return, that you would be welcomed here. The door closed, and the apprehension left the room with the chief. He looked at the nurses. They had been watching the entire time, quickly went back to work when the conversation ended. We better do as he says, Genesis. I don't trust them to not shoot us in the back if given the opportunity, Tyrick said quietly. One of the nurses, a female Ernak, approached him timidly. The fitting medical suit she wore was pristine, brightly white. We have to take the corpse away to the mortician's wing. Her voice was soft and warm. Genesis turned to take a long look at Norris, how still he lay there. Then her eyes fell on the gap and the wound in his chest. You can take him, she said, her voice faltering slightly at the end. The nurse nodded once, kicked up the stoppers on the bed, and rolled him away through the door across the infirmary. She watched the nurse slowly disappear down the hall through the window. Let's go. The two of them exited the same double doors the chief and down the corridors the nurse had taken them through. When they reached the main concourse, all the conversation died as soon as they stepped into the room. A fair dozen pair of eyes were on them as they headed for the exit doors. Genesis quickened her pace, trying to ignore the glowering of their retreating forms. Once they were outside, the conversation continued. They walked to a security booth, and Genesis stopped dead in her tracks, staring hard at the empty seat inside. I doubt we'll ever come back here, she told her partner, willing her body forward to the Tempest. I see no reason to return, unless we're invited to Paris Heights. She put her hand on the biometric pad of the ship. Doors open. Climbing inside, she chuckled. Yeah, it's unlikely. Once they strapped in, she turned the engine off, the engine of the ship, and lifted. She turned on the engine of the ship and lifted the spacecraft slowly off the ground, steadily gaining altitude. The sky slowly turned from medium blue to blue black as they exited the atmosphere, and soon they were among the stars. Harith City was just a small cluster of dots in a massive sea of red dunes. Next stop, Millennia, Turek sighed. Why can't we just go home and get it in a few days? Give it a few days. Taruk, you already know the penalty for delaying and closing a failed case. She steered the ship toward the jump point. A group of other ships were amassing to be transported in different systems. We take our slap on the hand, cry it out, and move on. I need to decide which bottle of alcohol I'll be passing out with tonight. Beryllian rum, Inaret nectar, or maybe black quasar. Tarek, no binges, she replied sternly. I need you sober for whatever assignment we get next, considering what happened this time. I wasn't going to actually do it, but it would be fun though. Welcome to the Canis Beta jump point. Please confirm your destination. A robot voice from the console chirped. Infinity cluster Eon. Destination. Please stand by. Destination confirmed. Please stand by. The familiar dimming of lights in the cockpit returned from the warp core and roared to life. Genesis closed her eyes. I really wish I had those leaves the Ernak mentioned. She sighed, placing a hand over her stomach. Well, we need to do a supply run anyway, so we'll pick some up once we get to Millennia, he replied. Before they knew it, they were in the stream again. She held she held her breath. Tarek covered her hand with his, saying, I wonder if all humans get this wound up going through the stream. Well, you won't know until you start traveling with other humans that your way of saying you want a new partner. He chuckled. I would have tossed you out as soon as we met if I wanted a different partner. I just want to know the less than obvious differences between humans and Abarians. If we stick together until we die of old age, eventually you know everything you want about Homo sapiens. A few seconds later, the pull from the stream ended and the console beeped. You've arrived at your destination. Please indicate which landing platform you'll be using today so that our landing bots can assist you, the robotic voice requested. Millennia, Galactic Investigation Bureau Headquarters, Tyra. Destination platform confirmed. Please provide adequate security clearance upon arrival to avoid any inconveniences and possible arrest. Acknowledged. The console shut off, and the Tempest headed for the largest landmass on Eon. Her attention remained fixed on the massive curved structure that encircled the planet, thousands of miles above its surface. It emitted a soft blue light and faded in and out at regular intervals. Space droids removed large sections of metal paneling and disappeared into the inner workings of the machine. Never ceases to amaze, huh? Thousands of years old and haven't failed yet, Tarek said, interrupting her concentration. I just hope those repair droids keep their job, she replied. As they got closer to the city, the finer details of the bustling metropolis came into view. Countless skyscrapers stood tall near their center. A building in the shape of a colossal spire glistened in the middle of it all, surrounded by a large lake, four bridges equal length. The hover cars zipped back and forth in chaotic harmony, their engines whining loudly as they went by. The Tempest landed on the ground, and the surface bot was quick to approach her door, As the engines died down, it greeted them with a precise yet warm "Good morning, and welcome to Millennia City, which is the home of countless species, with a population of 1.6 billion inhabitants in its downtown metropolis and multiple suburbs. Thank you for visiting the Galactic Investigation Bureau. Please state or show your employee ID. Genesis Stone, Ranger number 629, Class 6, and Tyruk Urdes, Ranger number 116, Class 6. Thank you, Miss Stone. Please report to the registrar. The incident report team will be with you shortly after you check in. I will inspect your ship for any necessary repairs or upgrades. The robot bowed slightly and turns its attention to the Tempest. The Galactic Investigation Bureau headquarters was a massive structure made entirely of stone, pristine from the stairs to its top that looming high overhead. Its gray-white columns dwarfed every living thing that passed by, and the peak of its red roof eclipsed the sun. A large statue of its founder stood tall and proud, with a book in one hand and a scale in the other, in the middle of a large rectangular pool full of water so clear it just appeared to be made of glass. A golden place card underneath read, "True justice thrives on knowledge." The children dipped their hands in the cool water, splashing one another as they played in the wide, grassy courtyard that brimmed with vibrant flowers of a sort unfamiliar to Earth. Other investigators were walking to and from the headquarters, some nodding curtly at Genesis and greeting, while others gave her a side eye or simply walked by without acknowledging the pair at all. "Genesis," a young cheerful voice examined. Before she could find the source of the voice, a pair of arms wrapped tightly around her body and her face was buried in clothing. "Zerlin," she breathed. Tarek chuckled, folding his arms across his chest. "I see the little one is still your biggest fan." As quickly as he had ensnared her, he let her go, his deep blue eyes glaring at Tarek. "I'm not little. I'm almost as tall as you are," Tarek said. "Tarek, and I'm still growing." "I know, Kishara." "My name is Sir Lin," he replied through gritted teeth. "Easy, kid. You get that upset when you finally go out on your own as a scout. You'll get yourself into a lot of trouble." "He's right, sir. If you want to keep making progress, you have to keep your cool head," she reminds him. "If you fail the recruit assessment, you'll be back to square one." The two seasoned investigators continued walking towards the building, and Zerlin followed close behind. "I know," he said quietly, his voice downcast, his demeanor suddenly changed to one of zealous curiosity. "Where are you two coming from?" "Hamathor," Tarek replied. As they walked through the sliding doors, the hallways were bustling with activity. People hurried back and forth carrying data pads, paperwork, and other things. Excuse me. The layout consisted of quite a few elaborate wooden staircases and elevators and small offices on either side of the large hall. A large holographic map of the galaxy hovered high above their heads, PA system giving a brief description of the marked planet. The ground floor was decorated on with display cases of medals, both old and new, clothing worn by previous GIB members, outdated exploration equipment, and ancient artifacts that had been recovered by long deceased investigators, along with brief description of each of its items. Painting of Paintings of battles fought long ago hung on almost every wall, and the GIB's more recent accomplishments as an organization were shown on large digital displays. Statue of its founder, more true to size, stood on the second floor, overlooking the activity below. What was that like? Hot serpents, red sand everywhere. You know, we can't disclose the specifics of the case, Sir Lynn. Oh, okay, that was Tyler. Sorry about that. We have somewhere to be, sir. I'll see you, okay? Genesis told him. You can always contact me on the hallway, remember? Right. I have something to do anyway. Hope all goes well. And with that, the young man split off from them, returning outside. They excused themselves several times as they passed through the crowd to get the staircase. Zerlin seems to have a crush on you, Genesis started. He's just a nice kid. Sure, sure, but eventually, when he's knocked on his butt enough times, he'll be packing his bags, Tyrek replied. You never know, Tyrek. Zer might have what it takes, and I just might replace you, she teased, pushing the button of the elevator. Tyrek focused on the golden yellow eyes of her, on his golden yellow eyes on her, his face blank. You'll get yourself killed. You need me, Jen. We'll see about that. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped into a wide metal box. Genesis pushed the button labeled Registrar, and lift quickly started to make its ascent. Before they knew it, the doors were opening to the fifth floor. Let's see. Sorry, doors were opening to the fifth floor, where there was far less traffic, and the conversations were quieter. It maintained the open floor planning, and dark marble busts of significant investigators were situated carefully along the walls. Several smaller rooms with thick frosted glass were on either side of the hall, and a large oval desk was situated carefully along the walls. Oh, yeah. Sorry, lost my track. Sorry. Large oval desk was situated at the very back of another elevator, standing next to it. 5 registrars were on duty, and Genesis approached the first one and made friendly eye contact. It was a female Kashara with lilac-colored skin that became lavender along the crests on the crown of her head, almost diamond-shaped. Uh, amethyst irises, amethyst irises glowed gently. A subtle but warm smile rested on her rouge-painted lips. Her face looked as though it was carefully chiseled out of smooth stone. My name is Tisara. How may I help you? The female Kashara asked. Her voice was almost robotic in tone, but kind. We're here for an incident review. Genesis Stone ID 629, Tarek Erdis ID 116. Just a moment. She turned her eyes to the terminal booth there. Yes, Voyagers 078109 and 113 will be waiting for you in room A7. Thank you, Genesis said before leaving the desk. Sighing heavily, she scanned the room numbers and they walked down the hall side by side. She could see figures moving around behind the frosted glass and heard muffled voices in a few rooms. The room labeled A7 was just ahead, and she could hear several voices coming from inside. She stood in place just outside the door, her palms sweaty, her scalp was itching, and she took several deep breaths, closing her eyes. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that hated these things. Oh, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that hated these things. An aged voice momentarily interrupted her procrastination. Yeah, sorry, I screwed that one up. When Genesis turned, her eyes fell on the face, prompting her to smile. He was an Ibarian, slightly taller than Tyrook, gray-white hair, peppered in the chestnut beard concealing his jaw. He wore a long black coat and a dark blue scarf, light armor on his chest, and black spacer pants, military grade boots. His stormy gray eyes, slightly filled, glint warmth in them. Or you've been sit. You're one of the sitting investigators in my case review. Yeah, kid. Welcome surprise, right? I didn't want to do it, but here I am. He sighed and then nodded curtly to Tyruk, who returned the gesture. Tyruk, been back home lately? No, not in a while. But every time my father and I talk, he asks how you're doing. Tell him early retirement is sounding better and better every day. Well, guess we better not delay the inevitable. After you, madam. He extended his arm and she entered the room. The two other senior investigators were already seated in the black wooden table, one of them a sage-colored female Vrock and the other a bright green male Zytorak. Good morning, Miss Stone. Mr. Erdest, please have a seat. The Zytorak said, you two look like you've had a rough journey back to HQ, so we'll try to make this go as smoothly as possible. I'm Voyager Jorin Dow. This is Voyager Kira Rintel. I'm sure Voyager Boar Everest introduced himself already. Yes, he said, taking a seat. Genesis sat down, trying to tap her foot on the ground as quietly as possible. Her eyes focused on the hollow pad of the table. Good. The three presiding investigators looked down at their pads, examining the case in tense silence. Genesis began to twirl her fingers beneath the desk, staring at the grooves in the woods of the table. The sharp smell of dust and the amalgam of body odor filled the room. Her eyes briefly searched the walls. It sounds like a very harrowing situation to be in, considering this is supposed to be a simple, straightforward assignment. A lot was thrown your way very quickly on Hammerthal. Her voice was politely forceful and heavy. Let's see here. Yes, I agree. No one could have foreseen these circumstances. We won't fault you for that. However, Chief Vaughn expressed intensely displeasure and anger over the loss of one of his best men, which is understandable. Would you please disclose how that came to be? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. There's some background noise. All right, apologies. Back to it. Yes, I agree. I could have foreseen these circumstances. We won't fault you for that. However, Chief Vaughn expressed extreme displeasure and anger over the loss of one of his best men, which is understandably. Would you please disclose how that came to be? Voyager Jurin asked. He looked between the two of them. After swallowing hard, Genesis replied, Paris City dropship descended, and he was boarding the ship behind Yavik when she shot him. Why wasn't Yavik Tim secured between you and your partner? Did you forget your lasso? Boar asked. Let's see which one. Our sand drifter was disabled, so we had to walk through the desert and evade the Erypiris. I told Genesis to release the loop of her belt. There was no use in losing them both in the event that. Okay, apologies again. Uh, let's see. What was that? Oh, of course, more noise. Okay, again, apologies. I live in a house full of people, so it's not that easy. Okay. Our sand drifter was disabled, so we had to walk through the desert and evade the Imperius. I told Genesis to release the loop of her belt. There was no use in losing them both. In the event we were chased, subsequently eaten, Tarek informed them. Kira focused her amber eyes on him. A sensible suggestion, but one that cost you greatly in the end. The traitors, which I am assuming are mercenaries, succeeded in getting a black market hacker to an unknown location. He's wanted in 4 star systems for siphoning millions of credits to Frax knows where. There's no guarantee we will ever be able to find him again. They will only make it harder to apprehend him from this point forward. We, volun- we volunteered to go after the group that took him, Genesis said. But Chief Vaughn refused our help. He threatened us if we ever returned. His men were ready to shoot us. We have conflicting information. Chief Vaughn put his report that the Ibarian was hostile upon our initial meeting, and was was ready to engage in physical confrontation when reprimanded. Is that correct? Genesis began to clench and unclench her fists. She blinked several times, rapid succession, wiping at her eyelids. Yes, but under no circumstances should Bureau members ever attempt to inflict bodily harm on a fellow authority figure regarding any interspecific history, Kira interjected curtly. She set the holopad down and tapped her large gray pointer finger on the screen, looking at the nervous pair. We are both to work alongside planetary law enforcement and adhere to a strict code of professionalism. If you want to gain trust of the public, I strongly suggest you learn how to control your temper, Mr. Erdis. Tarek remained silent and trained his eyes at the table. Yes, if we continue to receive reports about dissension and failure of cooperation with the local authorities, they will feel less inclined to extend an olive branch, as you humans put it, Durin added. His lightly green eyes had a slightly sympathetic gaze as they fell on Genesis. Did nothing calm her thudding heart. Gaffic Tim was far too valuable an asset to lose, but given the context you provided, we cannot come down too hard on you and your partner. However, we may not be so lenient next time something happens. Or do you have anything to add? The older bar inclusive. Hopefully, you are given a second chance to smooth things over with Parif City security. We need allies in that specific sector of the galaxy. As for Yavik, we will have to wait for something to surface. It may take weeks, months, or even years, but however long it takes, we cannot afford to let him slip through our fingers again. Genesis nodded her head. Understood. We won't fail you next time. Good, Joran said, a friendly face gazing his scaly jade colored face. Friendly smile gracing his scaly jade colored face. We just need your thumbprints to confirm this review has taken place and you're free to go. He slid the holopad across the table, and they both pressed their fingers on the screen. Kira got to her feet. Joran and Boar followed suit. Thank you both for coming here as soon as possible, she said, and went to the door, her heavy footsteps slowly retreating down the hall. Joran said nothing, gave a quick salute as he made his exit. Boar didn't move. How are you two feeling? He asked. Genesis, you look like you're about to throw up. I'm fine, she dismissed with a wave of her hand, wiping her palm on her jacket. She got to her feet. I've been up for 24 hours. I haven't eaten in as many. I would love a hot shower. I think we'd all benefit from these meetings being held over the holonet. It's not that I don't love seeing my comrades in person, but it isn't always convenient, Tarek replied. He stood as well. You aren't the first to mention that, and you won't be the last, Erdest. It's been standard procedure in the Bureau for centuries. When an incident like this happens, convenient? No. Necessary? Yes. But I won't keep you two here any longer. There's still plenty of cases coming in. The Bureau never sleeps. He winked at them, placed a hand on Janice's shoulder as he walked by. Don't take it too hard, kid. And then he was gone. Time to go home and crash, Tyrick said, yawning. I'll probably sleep for the next 3 days. Walking through the desert made me realize how out of shape I am. Or maybe you're just getting old, Genesis quipped, walking out the door. Tyruk walked alongside her, his hand on his chest in mock pain. Ouch, Jen. You and I are practically the same age in human years. When they neared the elevator, Genesis tapped the button on the ground floor. The door immediately opened. They stepped inside. She chuckled. I highly doubt that. Did they send us any new assignments? Tyrick asked. He was in the kitchen of their modest sized apartment, filling the teapot with hot water. The sweet smell of fruit preserve filled the air as Genesis took generous bites of her toast. Rain pattered gently against the large rectangular window panes that gave them a generous view of the metropolis all around them. Lighting danced across the gray cloudy sky. They looked up from her computer, waiting for a loud boom that followed shortly thereafter, but looking down at the terminal. Let's see this. Looks like it. So no hard feelings after our sit down with the incident report team. Says here It's a request from Vitacom. They're requesting the assistance of two persons skilled in de-escalating a hostile situation, involve disgruntled and or disturbed employees. Sounds like something our own security can handle. Why bother asking? Well, hold on. There's more. They said, oh, this is her. Sorry. Well, hold on. There's more. They sent several security officers to handle the situation, and they never returned. It's one of their remote facilities used for R&D in the Azure Wadi. I guess we're the next ones to disappear. Tyrek sat down in the chair to her left, the plate full of food and seasoned leafy vegetables. Here's your tea, he said, placing the sky blue mug in front of her. It seemed wafted lazily up into the air before dissipating. Thanks. She took a sip. She took a small sip, licking her lips. It's just a chance we'll have to take. The disgruntled or disturbed employee probably took them hostage. Do you really want to face Kira again for refusing an assignment? He put a forkful of his breakfast in his mouth, swallowing hard. Absolutely not. Rocks are terrifying when they're the least bit irritated. Then to Azure Wadi we go. Within the hour, they were back in the Tempest, which the service bot had done an excellent job in detailing and repairing the minor nicks and dents in the deep blue hull had been buffed and painted over. The control paneling inside had been replaced with sturdier equipment. After they made their jump through the stream, they found themselves approaching an aqua-colored planet with several tan-colored lines, masses, and scattered bodies of water on each of them. This must be Ramon, he said. I've never been able I've never been here, but I hear the seafood in Omi is to die for, especially their horn-shelled crab. One claw can feed a family of four. It's 37 credits per pound back on Avrilla. If we ever get a vacation, the crab claw is on me, she replied. Where we're headed is 250 miles northeast of Almy. We've been given clearance to land directly in Vitacam R&D compound. Great. We can get started as soon as possible with figuring out what we're dealing with. She remained silent as they made their descendants through the atmosphere towards the red dots on their map. Once they had, sorry, atmosphere towards the red dots on their map. Once they had reached a suitable height, the tempest carried them forward and over the tops of trees. Within a few minutes, they were approaching several tall rectangular buildings, a few hundred yards apart, connected by enclosed skyways. The Vitachem symbol was on each of them, sprouting double helix in a vial, and a landing pad was placed near the small structure. A high metal fence formed a perimeter through the air tree foliage, and security spikes on the tips of the bars. As soon as they landed, the employee dressed in heather green pants and matching shirt came to greet them. He was a Kashara, the shade of the sky, with near white eyes. Genesis hesitated to get out of the ship due to the worried look on his face, but ignored the nagging feeling in her stomach as she opened the door. We are so thankful you came as soon as possible. My name is Nian Diao, and I'm a biochemist. Genesis Stone, Tyra Urdes, she introduced them. Dossier didn't divulge much of the situation here. Follow me, please. He guided them inside the building. A large group of employees, the same green uniform, had gathered long metal tables with bench style seatings were placed in a neat row from wall to wall. Computer terminals on the left side were separated by a waist-high countertop. She received a variety of looks from the Vitachem employees. Some were curious, some were irritated, some were scared. The whispers in the air were tense, and the gestures she took note of were sharp and aggressive, prompting her to frown. It was written in a hurry. It was written in a hurry, and we realized the situation escalated rather quickly, and we aren't allowed to disclose our endeavors in detail to those who aren't employed by Vatican. So please don't ask any questions, and you won't answer. Please don't ask any questions you know we won't answer. The curt feminine voice. Genesis looked to her right, see a female Bacarian. Like Chief Vaughn, she said in a tall, lean frame, rounded figure, a woman's softer facial hues. Spotted skin and powdery red, her eyes were the color of burning sunset, while she also had spikes on the crown of her head. They weren't as prominent. Another Bacarian. Just my fortune. Tyrek sighed under his breath. Just my fortune. Genesis elbowed his side, eliciting a soft grunt from him. We're just here to contain the situation. Contain and control the situation. Good. Nandial will provide you with information you need. She looked Tarek up and down, then gracefully walked away. We all gathered here once when we found out that our co-workers were hostile without provocation. Security sent a few agents over right away, but they went into the residency building and haven't come out. We're all assuming the worst at this point. Nandiel informed them. Do you have security food? Do you have security footage on how this started? We don't put cameras in the residency building for privacy reasons. There are plenty of eyewitnesses in this room, but they all say Daniel was fine this morning, but after lunch he was irritable, like something was bothering him. When one of us asked if he was all right, he just started swinging at everyone. People started to panic and started killing us one by one. Okay, is everyone accounted for? Tyrick asked. There was a sense of urgency in his voice. Let me check. The Kishara opened the employee database and ran a count. Everyone was required to check in by scanning their ID card before we locked doors. People who were accounted for will be highlighted in green. Those who are still not accounted for will be highlighted in red. We tapped the button, imitating the search. The names on the screen started flashing green. Genesis felt relief wash over her. When the first two columns of names flashed green, several names flashed red in the next column, several more in the column after that. When the search was complete, the Kishara turned to them. We have 17 people missing, excluding Daniel and the two guards. Terminal beeped several times. He turned his attention to it, tapping the notification. It opened a barely audible gasp on Genesis' lips. Warning, containment breach. Whew. Sorry about the technical issues. I live with a bunch of folks and they can be loud sometimes. Uh, well, I'm no picnic either. But yeah, I just read the first two chapters of Singularity again, and again, it kind of moves fast, the pace at least. Containment breach. But yeah, the pace of it kind of moves kind of quickly. It's kind of at least the way it's written, kind of more like a movie script a little bit. But it is a very quick and simple read. I'm just kind of slow with my reading anyway. But yeah, so I'm gonna stop about here. But I highly recommend you guys buy a copy, whether it's physical or digital. Check this one out. I might do another one of these, maybe a little deeper into the book, so I don't spoil too much. Some of y'all will be confused by that, but you got to read the book to find out what else is going on. Uh, but yeah, this is Singularity Volume 1 by AJ Bashful. friend of mine, and I'm hoping you guys will give her awesome new sci-fi universe a shot. And I know she's working on some other stuff, and at some point I'm gonna have pop her on here, maybe have like a little interview with her and ask her to see what else she's working on, what else she's doing. Uh, just to give you guys more information. Because if you end up liking this one, then we'll see if you end up liking some of her other works too. Anyway, so yeah, this stream was kind of a surprise, just kind of just thrown together last minute. But I'd like to thank whoever popped in. If anyone wants to hear the next two chapters, I read them on my channel and had a spontaneous interview that clicked out. Oh yeah, yeah. Check out Nets as well. That's well worth your time. Uh, I highly, highly recommend this series. Well, to be fair, Net, it's the start of one book, so it's technically only the start of a series. But hopefully, Joy will be writing more of it and exploring more of the universe and the characters, and we'll see a lot more from it. So anyway, link in the description. Netcat here in the chat comments. Net, please leave another link to the image of the book in the regular comments after the stream is finished. Uh, it's a series in progress, yes. So people will know what the book looks like, and yeah, anybody who's interested, the link is in the description. I might put it in the comments in case it doesn't go well, but yeah, I really hope people pop onto this and like the writing and check out AJ Bashful's next work. You can find her on Twitter. Her handle is Anjoy. Her at is Miss Story Dragon. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Uh, have a good night.